If you are listening to this video, you've probably experienced a very familiar feeling. The body wants to rest, but the mind just keeps running back to what has passed, running forward to what has not yet come, until you exhaust yourself. There are nights when you lie down, but your mind won't stop. The more you try to sleep, the more anxious you become. The more you want peace, the more tangled you feel. But rest assured, today we will return together to a very near place, the place the Buddha taught, where peace is always available, right in your breath and your own wakefulness. In the video, When the Mind Thinks Less, Life is More Peaceful, you will be gently guided to recognize the roots of anxiety, learn how to let go of unnecessary things, and soften the mind bit by bit. You don't need to force yourself to become someone who doesn't think. You just need to learn not to be dragged away by your thoughts. Before we begin, if you find this content helpful and want to accompany the daily calming videos, like, share, subscribe, turn on the bell so you don't miss the next meditations from Zen Light Wisdom. Now, just sit comfortably, relax your shoulders, and slow down your breathing. Let's begin. If you are hearing these words, you have likely experienced a familiar state. The body is tired, but the mind refuses to rest. Busy during the day, as soon as you lay down at night, your mind starts to running back to what happened, running forward to what hasn't happened, circling the uncontrollable. We think to find safety, but the more we think, the heavier it becomes. We want peace, but the harder we try to be peaceful, the more chaotic we get. Some say, "I don't have time to be peaceful." But the truth is, without peace, we lose even more time, lost to anxiety, lost to reactive behaviors, lost in imaginary dialogues in our heads, lost to a sleepless night, waking in the morning more tired than when we went to bed. The saddest thing is that we get so used to that state that we think it's normal. In Buddhism, overthinking is not just having many thoughts. Overthinking is when the mind is pulled away by anxiety, comparison, wounded pride, regret, expectation, fear, and we mistake that for me. That identification exhausts us. The Buddha did not teach us to force the mind to be empty, nor to suppress emotions. He taught us to look clearly. Thoughts arise and pass. Sensations arise and cease. Everything is impermanent. When we see this clearly, we are no longer swept away. We still live, still work, still love, but we are no longer controlled by an inner noise. Today's video is a journey for us to learn something very practical: how the mind can think less, how life can be more peaceful, and how happiness can have a place in each day. The teachings shared follow the Buddha's spirit: mindfulness as the root, compassion as the foundation, wisdom as the light, and practice as the path. You don't need to change anything right now. You just need to be present. Breathe in, knowing you are breathing in. Breathe out, knowing you are breathing out. If your mind is running, that's okay. Just notice, the mind is running. Recognition is already mindfulness. Mindfulness is already the first step toward peace. The Buddha taught that suffering often does not come from events themselves, but from the way we cling to events with a grasping mind. We cling to a self that is offended. We cling to a self that must be right. We cling to a self that needs recognition. When we cling, the mind has no ease. When we let go, the mind finds breath. Try observing. Sometimes we hurt not because of the fact, but because of the story we tell ourselves about that fact. We reconstruct an old scene, add details, and make ourselves angry. We imagine a future, attribute hundreds of risks to it, and scare ourselves. The mind is like water stirred into mud. The more you stir, the murkier it becomes. Only when we stop does the water settle. If you are listening at night, treat this as a long, calming session. You don't need to remember every sentence. Let these reminders touch you at the right moment. Sometimes just one idea, one sentence, is enough to help you sleep more lightly tonight and to be kinder to yourself. tomorrow. Throughout the video, if any part strongly touches you, allow yourself to pause for a few seconds to feel it. There's no rush. Dharma is not for listening to know, but for listening and living differently a little each day. And now we begin, gently, slowly, and honestly, with your breath. Roots of overthinking: fear, control, and attachment to the self. There is something curious. When everything is calm, we become afraid. When things are okay, we worry, what if tomorrow it's not? The mind is like a gatekeeper used to viewing life with vigilance. Just a small noise is taken as danger. And so, the stream of thought begins to run, like a wheel turning without stopping. If, then, suppose, what if? We call that overthinking. But if we look deeply in the spirit of the Buddha's teachings, overthinking is not your fault. It's a survival habit. It arises from a very fundamental root: fear. This root of fear, if seen in the Buddha's words, usually accompanies a misconception, believing that you must carry everything alone. We forget that life is a web of conditions. There are things we can strive for, but outcomes depend on countless conditions. When we forget causes and conditions, we force ourselves to be certain. We want a guarantee for the future. But there are no absolute guarantees in this world. The more we demand guarantees, the more anxious the mind becomes. The Buddha calls the roots of insecurity the three poisons: craving, greed; aversion, ang; and ignorance, delusion. Craving is not only for money, it's craving for certainty, craving for praise, craving for everything to go one's way. Aversion is not just big anger. It can be quiet, irritation, resentment, wounded pride. Ignorance is not seeing the nature of impermanence, and so thinking everything must be permanent, must be right, must follow plan. When these three poisons operate, the mind invents many unanswerable questions and wears itself out with those questions. You can also observe your body. Every time you overthink, the body reacts immediately. Shoulders tense, chest feels heavy, stomach tightens, breath becomes short. Body and mind go together. Therefore, to reduce overthinking, sometimes we don't need to solve every thought. We just need to bring the body back to a state of ease. Breathe more deeply, relax the shoulders, feel your feet touching the ground. When the body softens, the mind softens. There is a simple sentence you can carry with you. Right now, I am safe. Life is not always safe, but right now, as you sit and breathe, most of the time, you are safe. The mind often pulls you out of right now to run after might happen, but might is not happening. When we place our feet back into the present, the mind can rest a little. That little rest, repeated many times, becomes strength. If you want to go deeper, look directly at the I that is afraid. Gently ask, what am I afraid of? What do I want to keep? What image am I clinging to? No need to answer immediately. Just ask, then breathe. Often, merely seeing that we are clinging loosens the grip. When the grip loosens, overthinking naturally lessens. When you see the mind wanting to control, try changing the question. Instead of asking, how can I make everything go my way? Ask, in this situation, what is the most wholesome thing I can do? The first question tightens the mind. The second brightens it. It brings you back to small, concrete actions: an apology, a clarifying conversation, a task to do now, or simply going to bed early to be more clear-headed tomorrow. The mind thinks less when life returns to simplicity and sincerity. Fear has many layers. There are obvious ones: fear of poverty, fear of sickness, fear of losing loved ones, fear of failure, fear of judgment. But there are subtler layers: fear of not being enough, fear of not being loved, fear of being abandoned, fear of being worthless. Those subtle fears often hide behind busyness. We dive into work, into social media, into plans, into goals, to avoid facing emptiness. Yet when night falls and all those distractions quiet down, the fear surfaces again, and the mind runs. The Buddha shows us one thing: suffering does not lie in events, but in clinging. When we cling to the idea, I must control, we suffer. When we cling to, life must follow my will, we suffer. And when life doesn't cooperate, we think more to force it back into our mold. But life won't comply, so the mind grows more tired. Many people think, if I think carefully enough, I will avoid mistakes. True thinking is useful when it helps us see clearly and act rightly. But overthinking is not sagacious thinking. It's repetitive, circular thinking that doesn't lead to action, only to depletion. It's like trying to quench thirst by drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. From fear, we develop the need to control. We want to control outcomes, control what others say, control our emotions, control the future. But the future hasn't arrived, so we must use imagination to pre-live worst-case scenarios. We imagine to prepare, but at the same time, we torture ourselves with things that haven't happened. The Buddha calls that conception and worry that pull the mind away from the present. The mind is not here, so it cannot be peaceful. The need to control is tightly bound to the self. That's the second root, attachment to a fixed self. Clinging to self is when we believe there is a fixed I that must be protected, must be right, must be recognized. When someone says something contrary, the self feels touched and the mind flares up. Then we replay. Why did they say that? How should I respond? Am I being disrespected? The other person may have forgotten the incident, but we keep it in our heads, making ourselves suffer all over again. Observe. In your most overthinking moments, is there often some touch to the self? When compared, judged, ignored, unrecognized, misunderstood, then the mind wants to fix its image in others' eyes. The mind wants to claim back fairness. But the more we demand, the more peace we lose. The Buddha does not ask us to become insensitive. He teaches wisdom. Wisdom begins with seeing. See sensations arising. See the mind heating up. See the story being fabricated. Just seeing gives you distance. That distance is freedom. With freedom, you can choose. Choose silence or speech. Choose to let go or to hold. Choose to return to the breath or to follow the thought. Another reason we overthink is that we equate thoughts with truth. A thought appears and we immediately believe it. I will fail. I can't do it. They hate me. I will lose everything. But thoughts are just thoughts. Thoughts are not truth. They are mental phenomena arising from many conditions: tiredness, memory, hormones, environment, a heard sentence. If we learn to see thoughts as clouds, we are less deceived. In meditation experience, the mind may offer hundreds of reasons to worry. But if we sit still, breathe steadily, and don't follow them, after a few minutes, those reasons naturally weaken. That is the nature of mind, impermanent. No thought, however strong, remains fixed. It only stays when we grasp it by repeating, analyzing, arguing in our heads. Let go of the hold, and it falls. So, how to begin letting go? The first step is not stop thinking. The first step is recognition. When you notice I am overthinking, gently name it. This is worry. This is fear. This is wounded pride. This is wanting to control. Name it not to blame, but to see. When you see, you're no longer stuck. And when you're not stuck, you return to the present. A simple mindfulness practice. Each time you see the mind running, ask, right now, what is the real problem? Usually, the answer is much smaller than the storm in your head. Sometimes the real issue is, I'm tired. I need rest. I need to talk things through. I need to do a concrete task. The mind exaggerates. Mindfulness helps shrink it. You can also ask, is what I'm trying to control in my hands? If it's within your control, Take a small action now instead of thinking in circles. If it's not in your hands, practice letting go. Letting go doesn't mean neglect. It means accepting the limits of yourself and of life. Acceptance lightens the mind. When the mind is light, wisdom appears, and you can choose the next step. The Buddha often uses close images. He said, "The wandering mind is like a monkey leaping from branch to branch. The more you chase it to stop, the more it jumps. If you chase the mind to catch it still, you will exhaust yourself. The wise way is to sit down, breathe, and let the monkey tire itself. When it tires, it will jump less." Similarly, when we stop feeding the stream of thoughts, the mind settles. You don't need to wait for a special day to start. Right now, try 1 minute. Place attention on the breath. Feel the air coming in and going out. If thoughts intrude, just notice and return. Each return is training yourself not to be driven. Each return is sowing a seed of peace. Remember, the goal is not to become a person who never thinks. The goal is to become someone not pulled away by thoughts. Thoughts will come, but you can smile and say, "I see you." Then return to real life, to tasks, to a step, to a sip of water, to a kind word. That is the path that takes the mind out of confusion and into peace. The loop of suffering wounded pride, comparison, regret, and expectation. After seeing that the roots of overthinking are fear, control, and attachment to self, we need to look at something very common. The mind doesn't overthink randomly. It overthinks in loops. That loop repeats day after day, sometimes just changing actors or settings, but the structure is nearly the same. This loop exhausts life long term because we suffer not once, but many times over the same matter. The loop of suffering often begins with a small trigger, a casual remark, a glance, a message seen but not replied to, being overlooked in a meeting, a loved one not understanding us. The small trigger arouses an unpleasant feeling. That unpleasant feeling awakens wounded pride. Wounded pride is the self wanting respect, wanting recognition, wanting to be loved in the right way. When that pride is touched, the mind immediately constructs a story. They look down on me. I'm not important. I was treated unfairly. That story inflates the sensation, turning a small scratch into a big wound in the mind. If you look deeply, wounded pride is subtle. You may say, "I didn't mind," but inside, you burn. You may laugh it off, but at night, you remember. You may be silent, but the silence is repression, not peace. Wounded pride cannot bear feeling less than or overlooked. So wounded pride often comes with comparison. Comparison is a trap. When you compare, you place yourself in a race without a finish line. You look at someone's nicer home, greater success, deeper love, then ask, "What about me?" You see someone calmer, more confident, and think, "I'm inferior." But you forget you're only seeing their exterior and your own inner anxiousness. Comparison is always unfair. It makes you feel lacking, even though you have many things to cherish, and silent progress others don't see. The Buddha taught that craving is the root of suffering. Comparison increases craving. We don't just want enough, we want more. We don't just want peace, we want peace in the exact image we imagine. When demands aren't met, dissatisfaction arises, bringing a cascade of thoughts. Must try harder, must prove oneself, must compel others to respect, must not lose. And when you lose, you suffer. When you win, you still fear losing it, fear being surpassed, fear not keeping it tomorrow. In the loop of suffering, regret and remorse are the second pull. Some people don't compare much, but are trapped by the past. If only I had said something different. If only I had chosen otherwise. If only I hadn't trusted them. If only I had taken care of my health earlier. Regret is like a hook stuck in the mind. Each recall brings pain, then a desire to go back and fix it, but you cannot. You cannot fix it, so the mind thinks more, analyzes more, blames more. Eventually you're left with a heavy sense, I was wrong, I'm bad, I don't deserve, and you judge yourself in silence. In Buddhism, the past is what has passed. It exists as memory, not as present reality, but the mind lives in memory as if it is happening now. We reconstruct the old scene, add words, facial expressions, imaginings, and make ourselves suffer again. This is a kind of recreating suffering. The Buddha does not teach erasing memory. He teaches not to be driven by it. Memory arises, you know it, then return to the present. The present is the only place where you can do wholesome things to steer the future through a small act, a sincere apology, an honest correction, or living a little kinder than yesterday. Expectation is the third pull. Expectation is not mere wanting, it is demanding. We demand others understand us, love us the way we want, behave as we think they should. We demand life, repay our effort fairly, give quick results, give recognition. But life does not operate according to those demands. When expectations aren't met, disappointment arises, reactivating wounded pride and comparison. Why don't they do like others? Why do I try but still fail? Do I have value? And so, the loop spins again. Look back. Aren't the nights you overthink the most those when you feel disrespected, disadvantaged, misunderstood, or when your expectations break? The mind is tired not from doing, but from not getting its way. Not getting its way happens often because life is impermanent and unpredictable. When you live by rigid expectations, you create many breaking points, and each break throws the mind. The Buddha teaches the way out of suffering begins with seeing things as they are. Seeing as they are means sensations are just sensations, thoughts are just thoughts, expectations are just expectations. They are not me. When we identify with them, we suffer. When we separate with mindfulness, freedom appears. Freedom doesn't mean absence of difficulty. It means the ability to choose an appropriate response instead of being pulled by old habits. Take a simple example. Someone doesn't answer your message. Wounded pride arises. They look down on me. Comparison. They reply to others quickly. Memory. They were like this before. Expectation. They must respect me. Then you think and think. But if you stop and see clearly, you might find, I am feeling abandoned. Just that. That feeling may stem from many causes, perhaps an old wound. Seeing the feeling correctly allows you to care for it. Breathe, acknowledge, and if needed, communicate clearly, ask for clarification, or simply put the phone down so your mind rests. Another important point, the suffering loop strengthens when you're tired. Lack of sleep makes the mind sensitive. Hunger makes it irritable. Overwork makes it pessimistic. So part of thinking less is caring for the body. The Buddha consistently taught the middle way, neither overtaxing the body nor indulging it. The body is the boat that carries the mind. When the boat leaks, the mind cannot settle. When the boat is steady, the mind can calm. How do we dismantle this loop? First, we practice pause. Pausing is a skill. When a trigger occurs, don't react immediately. Don't conclude immediately. Don't weave the story immediately. Pause one beat. Pause to breathe. Pause to see the sensation arising. Pause to remember that sensations are impermanent. They will pass. Just one beat of pause can prevent the loop from spinning quickly and give wisdom time to appear. Next, practice re-examining expectations. Gently ask, what am I demanding? Some demands are reasonable, basic respect, clarity of responsibility, but others come from the self, wanting to control others' emotions. You want them to always prioritize you, always understand you, always please you. Such demands are self-created suffering. When recognized, you can shift demand into wish. Wishing is lighter, demanding is heavy. Wishing opens possibility. Demanding brings disappointment and turns love into burden. Then, practice letting go of comparison. Letting go doesn't mean not seeing others. It means returning to your own path. Everyone has their karma, their conditions, their lessons. Some move fast in one area and slow in another. Some are externally favored, but inwardly troubled. The Buddha taught, happiness does not come from winning or losing, but from understanding and letting go. When you compare, you make the mind feel lack. When you know enough, your mind is full, and you stop running. Finally, turn regret into wisdom. Regret is useful only when it becomes a lesson and action. If regret's only function is self-punishment, it is poison. You can say to yourself, I was wrong, and I have learned. Then ask, from this lesson, what will I do differently today? Just one small changed step, and you have redirected. You are no longer bound by the past. Living slightly better in the present is how you answer the past with maturity, not with tears. A gentle way to cut the loop is to write. When the mind spins, write a few lines. What struck me, what I feel, what I fear, what I demand. Writing is not to deepen suffering, but to make the vague clear. When clear, the mind is less blind. And when less blind, you are less led around. If you are in the middle of a storm of thoughts, remember, a running mind doesn't mean you are broken. It means you've been caught by an old loop. You can step out with a breath, step out with a pause, step out by seeing clearly. This is wounded pride. This is comparison. This is regret. This is expectation. When you name it, you cut part of the thread. As the thread loosens, the mind lightens. Right now, if you wish, place a hand on your chest. Feel the heartbeat. Breathe in slowly. Breathe out long. Say softly to yourself, I am tired from overthinking. I allow myself to soften. That's enough. It's the beginning of the peace the Buddha wants us to find. Peace not at the end of the path, but beginning the moment we know how to return, to care for ourselves, and to stop making ourselves suffer. Each time you return to the breath, you sow a seed of peace for tomorrow. Contemplating impermanence, let go of the past. Don't panic about the future. If you observe carefully, most overthinking lies in two places, past and future. The past pulls us with regret, remorse, self-blame, or unhealed wounds. The future pulls us with anxiety, fear of loss, fear of mistakes, fear of not being enough, fear of not being in time. The present, the moment actually happening, is usually very simple. We are breathing, sitting, listening, living. So why don't we stay in the present? Because the mind does not clearly see the nature of life, impermanence. The Buddha taught that all conditioned things are impermanent. The body is impermanent, sensations are impermanent, circumstances are impermanent, relationships are impermanent, thoughts are impermanent. Impermanence is not meant to make us pessimistic. It is to awaken us. Seeing impermanence reduces clinging. Less clinging means less suffering. Less suffering means the mind thinks less. This is a clear thread. But impermanence is often misunderstood. Some hear impermanence and become cold. Nothing lasts, so why try? That is not wisdom. Wisdom of impermanence is knowing. Because everything changes, we should cherish what we have. Because everything changes, sadness will pass. Because everything changes, we can transform. Because everything changes. We should sow wholesome seeds today so tomorrow will be different. Impermanence makes us softer, not careless. When your mind pulls you back into the past, remember, the past is only traces in memory. It cannot touch you unless you open the door. Old wounds may sting, but a sting does not mean you must relive the whole pain. You have the right to see it as a cloud passing in the sky of mind. Ah, memory is coming. Then breathe. Put your feet back in the present. Just that, you train not to identify with the past. Similarly, when your mind races to the future, remember, the future hasn't arrived. It exists only in imagination. Imagination can help plan, but when it turns into panic, it becomes a burden. Ask, is what I fear happening now? If not, return to what needs to be done now. If you can prepare, do a small preparation, then stop. Do your part and let the rest be up to conditions. Contemplating impermanence also helps you see sensations clearly. Feelings arise and pass. Sometimes joy, sometimes sadness, sometimes irritation, sometimes loneliness. If we mistake sensation for me, we are driven. But if we see sensation as a wave, we can stand on the shore and watch. Big waves subside. The trick is not to dive into the water to struggle with the wave. Stand still, breathe, and observe. A concrete practice is see, know, let go. See, notice the sensation appearing. Know, name it without judgment. Let go, don't add a story, don't feed it with thought. For example, when you feel anxious, simply say, anxiety is present. Don't rush to ask why repeatedly. Don't pull in dozens of scenarios. Stay with the bodily feeling. Chest slightly heavy, stomach slightly tight. Breathe in slowly, breathe out long. You'll notice anxiety changing. It doesn't stay put. It weakens if you don't nurture it. Impermanence also helps us stop clinging to others. Much suffering comes from wanting others not to change. We want them to remain as they were, to love as we wish, to understand as we expect. But people change with conditions, through experiences, pressures, aging, their own suffering. If we cannot accept change, we create conflict. Why aren't they the same? Why are you different? Then we think, check, speculate, worry. Contemplating impermanence doesn't reduce love. It teaches us how to love properly, love without ownership, be close without binding, cherish while together, and be calm when parting. Try a simple reflection. Recall a time you tried to hold on to something that had changed, maybe a relationship, a job, a youthful phase, or an image of how I must be. When you tried to keep it, your mind tensed. When you acknowledged it's changing, your mind softened. Softness is not weakness, it's wisdom, because it aligns with reality. Going against reality is tiring. Going with reality is light. There is a simple phrase to repeat: this too shall pass. When you are overly joyful, this phrase helps prevent arrogance and clinging that leads to fear of loss. When you are deeply sorrowful, it gives hope and prevents despair. This too shall pass is not denial, it is seeing the true nature of states. Contemplating impermanence also touches a deeper place. This body is impermanent. Birth, aging, sickness, death. Many people overthink because they fear illness, loss, aging, death. Fear is natural. But if fear is not illuminated by wisdom, it becomes panic. The Buddha did not avoid the truth of aging, sickness, death. He used it to wake us to meaningful life. If the body is impermanent, we should use remaining time to do good, to live kindly, to be mindful. If the body is impermanent, don't spend life clutching small things, petty disputes, or prolonged resentments. Another subtle point: impermanence applies to the self you cling to. Today you think one way, tomorrow another. Today you are confident, tomorrow you may doubt. Today you smile, tomorrow you may cry. If the I changes so much, why treat a passing thought as a final verdict about yourself? Seeing the mind's impermanence helps you avoid conclusions like, I am a failure, I am undeserving of love, I will never be peaceful. Those conclusions are just moments of darkness. They are impermanent, and you can pass through them with mindfulness. When you practice impermanence, you'll notice a surprising thing. The mind thinks less, not because the world has fewer problems, but because you cling less. Problems remain. Work is busy, family has issues, health needs care, but you no longer drown in them. You do what needs to be done and then let it go. You don't take it to bed. You don't bring it into sleep. You don't let it eat away at your minutes. To let impermanence seep into life, try 3 steps. Step 1. Each day, pick a moment to observe change. Watch the sunlight shift. Watch leaves fall, clouds dissipate, breath come and go. No need for philosophy, just notice. The more you see, the more your mind absorbs. Life changes. When it sinks in, clinging loosens. Step 2. When something weighs you down, ask, will this matter in a year? This question is not to dismiss the present, but to reduce exaggeration. Many things that feel unbearable today will seem small a year later. When you see them small, you stop feeding them. Step 3. When worried about the future, divide it into my job and not my job. My job is attitude, effort, and wholesome choices today. Not my job is the final result, how others think, and events beyond your reach. Clarifying this helps you breathe. You'll see you don't have to carry the whole sky. A practical example, you're anxious about an important meeting. My job is to prepare content, sleep well, arrive on time, speak honestly. Not my job is whether the other person is satisfied or whether unforeseen circumstances occur. When you separate like this, you remain diligent but not panicked. You do your part and let the rest be. That's impermanence in action, knowing every meeting depends on many conditions, so you only shoulder what you can. Some ask, but if I don't worry, what if something bad happens? The Buddha teaches that worry doesn't stop impermanence. Worry only makes the present suffering. Preparation is different. It is a mindful action with limits, then stopping. Worry is the mind's fear with no endpoint. You can prepare by planning, saving, caring for health, learning skills, or speaking clearly. After that, let the mind rest. Rest is not laziness. It is trust in cause and effect and independent origination. You plant wholesome seeds, then leave the rest to conditions. If conditions aren't ripe, you keep planting without self-torment. Contemplating impermanence is also a key to forgiveness. When you look deeply, you see those who hurt you are also changing, suffering, and driven by their own defilements. You don't have to accept wrongdoing, but you can hold less hatred. Hatred is heavy. It keeps you stuck in the past. You keep wanting to get back what was lost. But what's lost won't return. What you can recover is your own peace, by letting go. If you want to practice now, try 3 releases in 1 minute. First, release the body, loosen the forehead, relax the shoulders, relax the belly. Second, release the breath. Don't control it, just observe. Third, release the story, any thought that arises. Silently say, "This too shall pass," and return to the breath. You'll notice, when you stop feeding the story, the mind quickly lightens. Finally, contemplation of impermanence brings a beautiful attitude. Live fully. When you drink a sip of water, know you are drinking. When you speak to a loved one, be present. When you work, do your best and stop at the right time. When you're sad, allow sadness, but don't extend it with stories. When you're joyful, allow joy, but don't cling until fear arises. Right now, practice 1 minute of impermanence with the breath. Breathe in and notice this breath is different from the previous one. Breathe out and notice it will pass. In that minute, the mind is reminded, everything flows. When everything flows, the wisest thing is not to grip. Gripping hurts. Release your hands, and you are light. Release, breathe, and you begin to touch peace in this moment. Tolerance, endurance. Stop reacting. Guard your speech. Guard your intentions. If I had to pick one practice that most quickly helps the mind stop overthinking in daily life, it would be forbearance, tolerance, endurance. But forbearance, as the Buddha teaches, is not gritting your teeth and bearing in silent resentment, nor forcing yourself silent and accumulating pain. Forbearance is the wisdom to stop, the capacity not to react hastily, the strength to keep the mind from being dragged away when provoked. Most overthinking arises after we have reacted. A word said in anger, a message sent in frustration, a decision made when the mind is unsettled. Then hours, days, even months of self-torture follow. If only I hadn't said that. If only I had kept quiet. If only I had been calmer. Overthinking, in many cases, is the consequence of not practicing forbearance. The Buddha taught that anger is like a hot coal. Whoever holds the coal intending to throw it at another will be burned first. When anger arises, without forbearance, we speak or act in ways that cause long-lasting unrest. Forbearance helps us avoid burning ourselves. Forbearance begins with intention. What happens in the mind? When something displeasing occurs, the first reaction is usually not speech, but a wave in the mind. Discomfort, resentment, injustice, hurt. If you don't recognize that immediately, the mind quickly builds a story. They meant it. They belittle me. I cannot let this be. That story feeds the feeling, and within seconds, words or actions follow. So, forbearance doesn't start at the mouth. It starts at the very first sensation. When you feel a heat rising, that is the moment you most need to practice forbearance. Not to swallow it, but to stop. Pause for a beat. Take a deep breath. Recognize anger is arising. Just recognizing you are not entirely controlled by it. One reason forbearance is difficult is we fear losing. We worry if we don't react right away, we'll be disrespected, diminished, or harmed. But the Buddha points to a contrary truth. The one who endures is truly strong. Strength is mastery over oneself, not making others fear you. If you don't react impulsively, you retain control. If you react in anger, you hand control to the moment. Forbearance is deeply connected to guarding speech. Many prolonged sufferings come from words. A sentence may pass in seconds, but its echo can last years. We replay. Why did I say that? Why did I allow them to speak that way to me? What did they mean by that? The mind unsettles because of spoken or heard words. The Buddha sets 4 criteria for speech. Is it truthful? Is it kind? Is it beneficial? Is it timely? When the mind is heated, it's rare that all 4 are present. Thus, forbearance is choosing not to speak. Not speaking is not avoidance. It is waiting until the mind is clear. When the mind clears, you may still speak only differently, clearer, kinder, with no blade hidden in the words. A practical exercise, the 12-breath rule. If you are about to say something in irritation, take 12 breaths before opening your mouth or typing. Those 12 breaths do not solve the problem immediately, but they break the momentum of reaction. Many have avoided an argument or a broken relationship simply by taking those breaths. Forbearance also helps reduce later overthinking. If you withstood and did not speak hurtful words, you won't lie awake thinking, if only I hadn't said that. You won't reconstruct conversations in your head to fix your words. You won't need to apologize to yourself each night. Forbearance now brings peace tomorrow. But forbearance doesn't mean swallowing everything. The Buddha did not teach allowing others to harm you endlessly. Forbearance is pausing a reaction, not suspending wisdom. After the mind has calmed, you can choose the right action. Set boundaries, leave a toxic situation, seek help, or make a wise decision. Actions born of a calm mind are less likely to create further suffering. Very important, forbearance toward others must include forbearance toward yourself. Many people appear quiet outwardly, but internally berate themselves, shame themselves, belittle themselves. That is not forbearance, it is self-torment. Forbearance toward oneself is allowing feelings, allowing vulnerability, allowing learning from mistakes without harsh self-condemnation. When you stop attacking yourself, the mind naturally thinks less. The Buddha once said, "A patient person is like the earth. People can pour garbage and dirty water on the earth, but the earth does not react. Not because the earth is weak, but because the earth is spacious. When your mind is spacious, others' words don't make you tight. When your mind is cramped, even a small phrase can suffocate you. Cultivating forbearance is cultivating the breadth of mind. You can widen your mind very simply. Each time you are touched by something, ask, is this worth bringing home with me? Many matters deserve to remain where they happen. But because we don't practice forbearance, we carry them home, put them in bed, bring them to the dinner table, and into sleep. Then we think more and suffer more. Learning to leave things where they belong is an art of forbearance. Forbearance also keeps you from being consumed by right versus wrong debates. Often, overthinking comes from wanting to prove you are right. You repeat arguments and evidence in your head, as if arguing with someone absent. But what good is being right if your heart breaks? The Buddha teaches, sometimes letting go of a small right to keep a bigger peace is wisdom. Winning at the cost of peace is defeat. A deeper practice of forbearance is patience with impermanence. When circumstances change, people change, or plans fail, you can respond with irritation and complaint, or with forbearance and adaptation. Forbearance here is accepting reality as it is and then moving on. Resisting impermanence tightens the mind. Flowing with it lightens it. If a particular incident keeps coming to mind, a person who hurt you, a phrase you can't let go, try to look at it with forbearance. Not to deny the pain, but to tell yourself, I choose not to make myself suffer more. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and say, I am hurt. I will add no more words to this wound. That is forbearance. Forbearance is gentle, quiet, and strong. Remember, forbearance is not a one-time accomplishment. It is a new habit to be repeated. Each time you stop a reaction, no matter how small, you sow a seed of peace. Those seeds grow. One day, you will notice things that once made you overthink now leave only ripples. Not because life has become easier, but because you have become steadier. Right now, if you want to practice a little forbearance, release your jaw, relax your shoulders, and exhale long. No need to do more. Just don't react to the thought racing by. Let it pass. Give the mind some space. In that space, peace begins to germinate. Compassion sympathetic. Joy letting go. Soften the heart so the mind no longer needs to overthink. Many people try to reduce overthinking by controlling thoughts, but they don't realize the root of disturbance lies not in the head, but in the heart. When the heart contracts from anger, jealousy, hurt, or wounded pride, the mind cannot rest. And when the heart aches, the mind must think, analyze, defend, find escape. So if you want sustainable reduction of overthinking, return to softening the heart first. The Buddha taught 3 profound energies that heal the root of agitation: compassion, sympathetic joy, and letting go. Compassion toward oneself is primary. Many overthink because they are harsh with themselves. They refuse to allow mistakes, weakness, or slowness. Each stumble becomes an internal beating, with heavy words no one hears, but that stop the mind from resting. When you lack self-compassion, your mind must constantly think to justify, to fix, to hold up. But when you begin to look at yourself with gentle eyes, the heart softens. If you can tell yourself you are trying, that you are learning, that you are imperfect yet deserving of care, the mind's pressure decreases. Self-compassion doesn't make you lazy. It reduces self-inflicted suffering. Compassion toward others works similarly. When someone hurts you, and you only see through wounded pride, your mind remains stuck on why they treated you that way, why they don't understand, why they're unfair. Those questions do not bring peace. They keep you with pain. But if you try to view the other with compassion, you may see their suffering, their ignorance, their reactions born of their own wounds. Seeing this doesn't mean condoning harm, but it prevents you from nurturing hatred. Hatred keeps you mentally carrying that person, whether they are present or not. When compassion arises, that burden eases, and your mind finds room to breathe. Sympathetic joy, rejoicing in others' happiness, is a deep practice because it breaks comparison at its root. Many heavy thoughts come from seeing others' success and measuring your worth. Without sympathetic joy, the mind remains in a quiet competition. Am I losing? Am I inferior? Am I being left behind? When you learn to delight in others' good fortune, you free yourself from an unnecessary race. You realize each path has different timing and conditions. Another's happiness does not take away your portion. Understanding this reduces overthinking, motivated by self-comparison. Sympathetic joy is not forcing yourself to be fake happy. It simply means not feeding the tiny jealousy that arises when others succeed. When a bit of envy appears, just notice it and don't amplify it. Not amplifying, don't compare more, don't belittle yourself, don't make judgments, lightens the mind considerably. When the mind is light, thoughts naturally thin. Letting go, non-attachment, means releasing, clinging. Letting go doesn't mean neglecting. It means not holding tightly to things beyond your control. Many overthink because they cannot let go of old matters. They keep turning them over. But the past no longer needs fixing. It needs understanding and being set down. If you can tell yourself the lesson is learned, you allow yourself to move forward. When you truly move forward, old thoughts have no reason to return. Letting go is also releasing the expectation that others must change as you wish. Much anxiety comes from wanting others to think in certain ways, to act in ways that satisfy you. But everyone has their own mind, karma, and path. By relinquishing the wish to live others' inner lives, you regain energy. The mind no longer has to think to predict, inspect, or control. The mind rests. When compassion, sympathetic joy, and letting go are present, the heart widens. With a wide heart, the mind is not cramped. Things that once made you turn over and over at night now feel like small ripples. Not because you're indifferent, but because you're no longer carrying unnecessary burdens. You still live, care, and love, but you don't bind yourself to suffering. If you would like to practice now, place your hand on your chest. Breathe in slowly, breathe out long, and allow yourself to soften. No need for words. Just permit. When the heart softens, the mind will find its natural quiet. And when the mind is quiet, you'll see that peace is not something far away to be sought. It's the natural state that appears when you stop hurting yourself. Live, holy, keep precepts. So the mind has less regret, hence less overthinking. There is a quiet but powerful truth. The mind often overthinks because of regret. Regret for words said, regret for harms done, regret for living contrary to one's deepest values. When regret is unresolved, the mind cannot rest. It will replay the past, reconstruct old scenes, punish and torment. Overthinking becomes a prolonged habit. The Buddha clearly saw this connection. Thus, he taught precepts not to bind people, but to protect the mind. Keeping precepts is not about rigid morality or external piety. It is living so that when night comes, the mind does not have to interrogate itself. When your life aligns with your conscience, the mind calms naturally. No force needed. Many people try meditation, reflection, and letting go, while daily life is full of contradictions. Lying for convenience, hurting in anger, living inauthentically. Sitting silently does not settle a conscience. The mind knows. The mind knows you have deviated. That deviation prompts overthinking as a way of rationalizing, repairing, or hiding. Overthinking in that case is not the illness, but an alarm. Living wholesomely starts with not intentionally causing harm to others. When you live by that principle, fewer heavy thoughts arise. You don't lie awake wondering whether your words hurt someone or whether your deeds left consequences. You have been careful from the start. Careful does not mean fearful. It means mindful. Keeping precepts in the Buddha's sense means keeping body, speech, and mind reasonably pure. Not perfection, just reduce one harmful thing each day. Speak one less word that burdens the heart. Abandon one harmful thought. Little reductions accumulate into a stable foundation. And when the foundation is stable, the mind doesn't need to overthink to fix itself. Some people overthink because they live double lives. One face for others and another for themselves. They do things against their values and must think to cover up, to fear being found out, to anticipate consequences. That is a very tiring form of suffering. But when you live straight, true, and in harmony with what you believe is wholesome, you do not have to remember as much or fear as much. That simplicity is a deep kind of peace. Living wholesomely also means responsibility with speech. Many lose sleep over their words, saying something and then thinking back, regretting, repeating self-reproach. This becomes a loop. The Buddha taught that speech is powerful, it can heal, and it can wound enduringly. When you practice speaking slower, less often, and with awareness, you protect your future mind. You protect not only others but yourself from nights of regret. Keeping precepts also includes keeping promises to yourself. Don't overwork yourself. Don't stay in draining environments. Don't foster habits that increase inner chaos. When you stop betraying your deeper needs, the mind won't erupt into overthinking. When you know how to stop, how to rest, how to say no, you are living kindly toward yourself. A mind that is not betrayed remains calmer. Important point. Living wholesomely doesn't instantly make life easier, but it makes your mind lighter when facing difficulties. You might still face trials, but you won't face them while also carrying self-reproach. You won't have multiple layers of suffering stacked together. One layer of pain you can handle. 2 or 3 layers make the mind run and break down. The Buddha said someone who keeps precepts is like a person walking on a level path. Not because there is no wind, but because there are no deep pits to fear. When your moral life is reliable, your mind doesn't have to constantly monitor yourself. When you're not constantly on guard, the mind can rest. Living wholesomely is also sowing seeds of peace for the future. When you plant seeds of goodness, you need not worry excessively about the fruit. You know you are moving rightly. That sense of, I'm on the right path alone, calms the mind a great deal. Many overthink because they are unsure where they are going. When you live according to what is wholesome, your direction becomes clearer even if the road twists. A simple practice each evening before sleep. No heavy accounting, just ask 3 light questions. Today, did I hurt anyone? Did I say anything that makes me uneasy? Did I live honestly with myself? If yes, don't punish yourself. Just note it and vow to do a little differently tomorrow. When you end the day like this, your mind doesn't need to think more. It has been listened to. Living wholesomely isn't about being praised. It's so you can sleep peacefully. Sleep peacefully, not because life has no problems, but because your mind doesn't have to interrogate itself. When night comes and the mind is quiet, thoughts thin, breath deepens, and you feel clearly, peace does not come from thinking enough, but from living rightly. If you feel a bit lighter now, allow yourself to pause for a few seconds. Breathe slowly. No more to do. Just be here. When life is set on a wholesome foundation, the mind naturally knows the way back to quiet. Keep the mind steady between family, work, and social media. Having seen the roots of overthinking, practiced forbearance, softened the heart with compassion, sympathetic joy, letting go, and built a foundation through wholesome living, the practical question is, how to bring these into daily life where clashes, pressures, and constant stimuli appear. Understanding alone is not enough if you cannot live it. Otherwise, the mind will revert to old habits. Dharma only becomes truly meaningful when it enters the kitchen, the workplace, the phone, and close relationships. First, family. Family is where we overthink most, because it's where the self is allowed full expression. We expect most from family and therefore are most disappointed by them. A careless word from a stranger may pass, but the same word from a loved one can trouble you for a long time. When you see this, you'll realize much family overthinking isn't born of malice, but unspoken expectations. You expect them to understand, but you do not express your need. You expect care, but you don't communicate. When expectations aren't met, the mind interprets, guesses, and thinks more. Applying Dharma at home is simple. Speak less, speak more honestly, and speak at the right time. Speak less so you don't harm each other with excess words. Speak truthfully so the mind doesn't have to perform. Speak at the right time when both hearts are calm, so words build rather than wound. Practicing this reduces repetitive thoughts about family, because you no longer have to re-say in your head what you didn't say or what you said poorly. At home, a powerful practice is not to resolve things while the mind is heated. Some issues need discussion, but not immediately. Giving yourself and the other time to settle protects both from words that become sources of overthinking later. Not everything needs an instant reaction. Some things only need understanding and the right time. Next, work. Work is a place where overthinking appears as worry, pressure, fear of mistakes, fear of not being good enough, fear of evaluation. Many bring work home, not because tasks remain, but because the mind doesn't know how to put them down. They finish tasks, but the mind keeps meeting, debating, worrying scenario after scenario. The mind cannot distinguish work hours from rest hours. Applying Dharma at work begins with clarifying your part. When you know what belongs to you and what doesn't, the mind unloads. Do your best during work hours, but once you leave, practice setting it down. Setting it down isn't irresponsibility. It's trust in cause and effect. You did your part. The rest is not yours to carry home. A useful habit: end work with a small ritual. Before leaving your desk, take a minute to list what's done and what will be done tomorrow. Writing it down lets the mind know things are placed, so it won't keep repeating them. This small ritual helps transition from work to rest, from tension to softness. Patience is very important at work too. Not every injustice needs an immediate reaction. Not every misunderstanding must be corrected instantly. Sometimes guarding the mind is more important than proving yourself. Choosing peace helps you avoid hours of post-event overthinking, replaying meetings, analyzing phrases, wondering what others think. Another environment that strongly fuels overthinking is social media. Social media fosters comparison, expectations, image-making, and wounded pride. We see curated lives and then question our place. We post and then worry: who will see, who will like, who will comment? The mind is pulled into constant measuring. Applying Dharma here means setting limits. Limit time, limit content, and limit attachment. Don't treat social media as the enemy, but see how it affects your mind. If browsing leaves you heavier, more comparative, or more anxious, it's a sign to stop. Stopping is an act of kindness toward your mind. A clear practice: don't bring social media to bed. The bed is for rest, not for more stimulation. Protecting sleep protects your ability to practice mindfulness the next day. Lack of sleep makes every spiritual practice harder. Adequate sleep is part of mindfulness. In every environment, the key is returning to the body. When the mind begins to run, ask, how is my body? Are my shoulders tense? Is my jaw clenched? Is my breath shallow? Adjust the body, and the mind will follow. Dharma is not only in ideas, but largely in how we breathe, sit, and walk. You can carry a simple reminder during the day: is this worth losing my peace? This question doesn't let you shirk responsibility, but helps you sort. Some things need seriousness, but not stress. Distinguish the two, and the mind thinks less. Another important point: accept your imperfection. You can practice, and still sometimes get hot. You can understand and still forget. That doesn't mean you failed. Each time you notice earlier and stop sooner, you've progressed. Self-blame returns you to old overthinking loops. Give yourself time. Finally, life doesn't need to be perfectly calm to be peaceful. Peace is when amid motion, the mind is not dragged too far. You still work, care for family, use technology, but you know when to stop and when to return. Living thus, thoughts lose their power. They come and go, but you do not follow. If you're listening and your life is getting clearer, smile gently. You don't need to change everything in one day. Just choose one place to slow down, be more present and kinder. One place is enough to give the mind a way out of overthinking. From that small exit, peace will gradually spread through your whole life. 7-day practice to return the mind to quiet, let thoughts naturally settle. After understanding and reflecting on the deep causes of overthinking, the most important next step is not more understanding but regular practice. The Buddha never taught liberation as mere theory. He always emphasized, knowing without doing leaves suffering unchanged. But practice doesn't need to be grand. It only needs to be correct and consistent, and the mind will shift. This section is not to make you become a person who does not think. It aims to help you return to the mind's natural rhythm, where thoughts arise and pass without dragging you away. A 7-day path, light, everyday, and real. You don't need extra time, just a change in presence. Day 1. Return to the breath. Throughout the day, whenever you remember, take one conscious breath. No need for the breath to be long, just one breath knowing you are breathing in, one breath knowing you are breathing out. If the mind is busy, that's okay. Simply know you are thinking. Breath is an anchor. Returning to it often trains the mind not to wander so far. That night, you may feel your head a bit less tense, even if thoughts remain. Day 2. Return to the body. Today, attend to the body a bit more. When sitting, know you are sitting. When walking, know you are walking. If tired, allow rest. If hungry, eat more slowly. Many thoughts arise when the body is neglected. When the body is heard, the mind needn't shout with thoughts. The second night, sleep is often deeper. Day 3. Practice pausing before speaking. Not complete silence all day, but a pause before important words. Pause to breathe. Pause to ask, is this word necessary, kind, timely? Speaking less but more skillfully reduces mental replay at night. Much overthinking stems from words said that can't be taken back. Day 3. Cuts that source. Day 4. Practice letting go of one small thing. Just one. Maybe an old repetitive thought. Maybe an expectation with someone. Maybe a controlling habit. Don't let go of everything. Let go of a little. When you let go a bit, you discover letting go doesn't cost you. It lightens you. Once you taste lightness, the mind wants more. Day 5. Practice self-compassion. Today, whenever you notice you err, are slow or fall short, speak kindly to yourself. I am learning. No need for fancy phrases. When you stop punishing yourself, the mind doesn't overthink to heal itself. Self-compassion quickly quiets thoughts. Day 6. Practice contentment. Not material contentment, but present moment sufficiency. Enough for a meal, enough for a day's work, enough for one effort. When you feel enough, the mind stops running. When the mind stops running, thoughts no longer chase something. Contentment is a powerful remedy for an era that constantly pushes more. Day 7. Practice complete letting go before sleep. Before lying down, sit or lie quietly for a few minutes. Review the day, not to judge, just to notice. Note what was done and acknowledge it. What wasn't done, postpone to tomorrow. Then say, today is finished. Allow the day to end. When you permit the day to truly end, the mind doesn't keep thinking for tomorrow. The night's sleep will be different. The key to these 7 days is not perfect execution, but a gentle attitude. If you forget, just return. If you fail, smile. Each time you notice yourself overthinking and come back, that is mindfulness. Don't turn practice into a new burden. Dharma doesn't add weight. Dharma removes it. After 7 days, thoughts won't vanish, but you will notice a clear difference. You are not pulled away by thoughts as far as before. You see sooner, stop faster, and return more easily. The ability to return is freedom. You can repeat the 7-day cycle many times. Each round, the mind settles a little more. No rush, no comparison, just steady walking. The Buddha never promised a life free of waves. He taught how to stand steady on the shore. Right now, take a very slow breath. No more. Just breathe. In that breath, there is no past or future, only gentle life occurring. When you touch this moment, you'll see something simple. The mind doesn't need to think much to exist. The mind only needs to be still. Return to inner stillness to live lighter, more peacefully and more happily. If you have listened this far, it shows something clear. You truly want peace. Not peace as avoidance, but peace so you can continue living, continuing to love, continuing to work without being exhausted by your own mind. That longing itself is a wholesome seed. Throughout this long journey, perhaps you have seen that overthinking is not the enemy. It's a signal, a sign that you have lived too tightly, carried too much, demanded more than necessary from yourself and life. The Buddha does not come to silence the mind. He teaches us to know the mind, so that when known, the mind naturally quiets. You've seen overthinking arises from fear, attachment to self, comparison, regret, expectation, words said in heat, actions against one's conscience, and a heart contracted for too long. And you have seen the path clearly. Return to the breath, return to the body, slow down, pause before reacting, speak more kindly, release control, love yourself more, and live in accordance with what is wholesome. None of these steps is lofty. None require you to become a different person. Each step simply invites you back to yourself, to a natural rhythm you've long neglected. When you return, the mind no longer needs to run. And when the mind stops running, thoughts naturally thin. Perhaps tomorrow your life still has many tasks, pressures, and moments that aren't as you wish. But if you remember just one thing, everything changes. You don't have to carry everything into your heart. Some tasks only need doing, not extra thought. Some matters only need understanding, not holding. Some people only need love, not demands. Some days only need wholehearted living, not perfection. When night falls and the mind starts to run again, don't blame yourself. See it as a gentle reminder. It's time to rest. Breathe a bit slower. Place your hand on your chest. Tell yourself quietly that today has been enough. That alone is enough. The mind will hear and gradually quiet. The Buddha taught that happiness isn't found in a sea without waves, but in a mind that no longer fights the waves. When you stop resisting, you find you can stand far steadier. And when you stand steady, you don't need to think excessively to find an escape, because you are already in the right place. If this video helped you feel lighter even a little, allow yourself to listen again whenever you need. Not to remember more, but to remind yourself to return. Each return is one less self-inflicted suffering. If you wish, you can share your feeling in the comments. No need for fancy words. Just be real. Perhaps your simple truth will comfort someone else quietly overthinking at night. Like, share, subscribe, turn on the bell. Stay with Zen Light Wisdom, so each passing day, your mind can be a little more at peace. Now you don't need to do anything else. Just breathe and allow yourself to be at peace.